Here we go again. Welcome to episode number 21 of the JD Outdoors podcast. Follow me on Instagram at JD underscore outdoors 1773. My guest today will be Nick Cousvis. Follow him on social media at Cousvis underscore fishing. Today we'll be talking about fishing a jerkbait. How you doing today, Nick?
Good, man. How are you? Thanks for having
Very,
me on.
yeah, of course, no problem at all. You're a hammer, so you gotta have the knowledgeable people on, you know.
Maybe a chisel. I don't know about a hammer, but
I guess I'd rather be a chisel than a hammer because
yeah, maybe.
I
Hear me.
wouldn't want to be,
Not
but
only is this guy on my show, but he's cocky too. All
all right.
right.
So, can you give us a little background on your fishing career and how and when you started fishing and especially tournaments and all that good stuff?
Yeah. Actually, nobody in my family was a fisherman. It was actually a good friend of mine. His grandfather took us out one time. I was probably 13 years old or very close to. And, I guess just the way they say it, one day out, I got hooked and that was it. But, I'll never forget that the first day we went out, we were throwing a bobber,
Okay.
casting bobbers in the middle of the lake with MEP spinners underneath them. So we had no clue what we were doing. And I got home that night and I was so upset that we didn't catch anything. I told my mom to drive me to the shop and I grabbed a magazine. It was In Fisherman and I was reading about some stuff and I called up my buddy all excited, said, "Man, we were doing everything wrong. We got to go back out there again." And that was it. And I started tournament fishing pretty much when I turned 18. I kind of knew that's what I wanted to do.
Mm.
And, the time here in Canada, the scene was pretty good. Tournaments were hard to get into. They were full, as they were in a lot of places in North America. It was a different scene back then. And it was a tough circuit. It was called the CFT, Canadian Fishing Tour. And it was three tournaments. It's actually four tournaments, but you had to fish three. You can drop one bad tournament. But the extra tournament was on, Lake Erie, Lake St. Clair, Lake Ontario. And I was young and, we didn't grow up fishing that big water, so we never fished that tournament.
Exactly.
If you had a bad finish, you would not make the finals. You wouldn't make the classic. It
Mm.
was really the top 20 teams that made it out of 100,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a grind. But it really sort of molded my fishing career and made it tough. You had to learn to fish stuff that you weren't comfortable with, and it made me a better angler in the end.
Gotcha. And where
Yeah.
are you now with fishing wise
Ye-
tournaments?
Yeah, so I'm still doing the tournaments. So obviously, the tournament scene here in Canada is not the same. There's a couple of big ones. We have the Canadian Open, that's
Mhm.
still pretty good, and then the Thousand Islands Open, which we get actually a lot of U.S. anglers coming
Yeah.
across the border to fish that. That's pretty much it. The only other one I do is the one in Wisconsin, the Sturgeon Bay Open.
Okay.
But
Okay.
we did 2 years in a row there, and then COVID kicked in, so last year it got canceled.
Yeah.
So still trying to work on the water there, but definitely had a better finish there the second time around. I think we finished 24th or something like that. But a lot of hammers, a lot of guys from the Midwest come up from
Yeah.
Kenora. They're coming from everywhere, man. Some really good sticks there. So when you finish well there, it's usually about 160 teams. So
Yeah.
it's good. So that's kind of my tournament thing. And then, I'm doing some guiding, but my guiding is more focused on trophy fishing. So it's a lot in the fall, late in the season. I
Yeah.
mean, I do some summer trips, but tournaments kind of keep me busy in the summertime. And then, of course, my big thing is I do a lot of on the water lessons. So teaching guys that are just getting into the sport because, it's not like golf, man. You walk into a tackle store, there's so many rods, so many reels, so much line. What does that lure go with? It's a lot to learn. So I kind of give them a fast track, speed up process to kind of learn how and what to use, how to use it, when to use it. So I get a few clients that do that. And that's kind of, it's my way to give back to the sport because I mean, we eat, breathe, and sleep it. You know what I mean? I was telling my wife, I made a joke that, when I was a kid growing up in school, I was drawing bass boats and bass jumping out of the water. I probably should have been spending more time doing schoolwork, but I didn't.
Hey, I mean that it's worth it now,
It is, man. Yeah, it is. Yeah, yeah. I don't regret anything.
Yeah, I like you just said, teaching clients and whatnot. I have to thank we get a guide up at Thousand Islands every year, and
Mhm.
Randy Gager, and he taught me a lot. And, it's just all about passing on the knowledge and whatnot. And that's kind of why I started the podcast, was just to get the knowledge out to everyone. Cause, there's, my first year was a huge learning curve when I first started like actually bass fishing and learning, like you said, what lure goes with what and all of
Yeah,
that. And now that I'm getting even deeper into it, I need to like get knowledge from more knowledgeable people to like fine tune it and whatnot, because, like there's going to be different people who have different opinions on stuff.
that's
You
right.
got to try it out. And,
That's right.
I've been in a few years, so I've experimented with different things, and I'm starting to finally settle into where I'm getting comfortable with certain techniques and how I throw them and whatnot.
That's awesome, man. There's guys all across the continent that they're good fishermen in
Mhm.
their own right, especially in the areas that they're from, and a lot of them could be pro guys. A lot of it is money. Like it's a
Yeah.
big. This is a pay to play game. There's no question about it. And especially now when you look at electronics and everything, and we joke all the time. And I know the younger generation they're looking at you saying, "Man, you're really outdated." But the reality is when the first bass boat I ever got, I mean, I paid like 3 grand to get electronics. And I thought that was crazy. I was like, man, this is expensive. 3 grand will barely buy you one pole for the back of your boat. Forget about electronics, panoptics. You got all this live scope and everything else going on now. So, like a well-fitted boat is minimum 15 grand just in electronics. Forget about your motor, your boat trailer, tackle. This is expensive sport. So,
Yeah.
um, it's you'll always learn something from somebody on your boat, regardless whether they're better than you or not. I never there's no ego on my boat, man, and
Yeah.
it's important to watch what everybody's doing. When I've done some pro-ams with the FLW and BASS, and trust me, when the guy in the back of the boat is catching a fish, I'm asking him, hey, what were you doing? It doesn't mean I'm going to change, but it's a mental note.
Yeah.
You stick in the back of your head, you just don't know. And you need to be prepared, because the way fishing is, you get them one way on this day, and the next day it's completely different. You're starting from scratch. So it's good.
Exactly. And it is funny because you can learn so much from people who also don't really know that much, because
That's
like when
right.
I'm fishing with my guide buddy up on Black Lake in New York, I this last year, 2 years ago, I was pitching a PB&J colored beaver, and he
Right.
was just, because he's a pretty old school guy, he like looked at it and he was like, well, why aren't you throwing black and blue? And I'm like, I don't know, like this color, like with the stain in the water, it seems good, I think.
Yeah.
And he was like, all right, I just try it out, see what happens. And a little while later, I start catching him on it, and he takes the rod out of my hand and he's looking at the bait and all that, and he's just like, all right, now I'm
That's
learning
right.
something. So it's just, yeah,
That's a good
learning
fisherman.
from
He
everybody.
knows. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
There's always room to improve.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So, what would you say is your best bass fishing memory?
Yeah. So, I really thought about this question a lot. I mean, there's so many, but I'll tell you, my best thing that I think about probably the most, and it's my best worst. I had a tournament years ago in the CFT, so we're talking 1999, and I had just started. I was in it for a bit. I don't know how old I was. I was 20 something. Anyways, so this is the finals. It's a 3-day tournament on a lake up here called Rice Lake. And the first 2 days, I thought I was on something. I had something in the back of my pocket that I thought could be really good. It'd give me a shot to win. But it was a little bit early in the year, and that pattern just didn't really start up at that time. But I kept it in the back of my mind, saying I'm going to go by there and try it a few times. You never know. So I think the first 2 days I was sitting in like 13th spot going into the last day. I knew I needed a big bag. So I just said, look, if I'm going to catch a big bag, this is where it's going to happen. So I went down there, and, I get like a 5 right off the hop, and then I get 4 small fish.
Yeah.
So I got 4 fish that are 13 inches. I got a 5-pounder. So I kind of go around the shoreline a bit. I come back, I get another one that's about a 3.5. And I'm like, okay, whatever, not bad. Now I got 3 small ones and 1 big one and 1 decent one. An hour goes by and I pop another 5. So now I got 2 5s, I got a 3, and I got 2 small fish. And then I hook onto a fish that, man, I'm telling you, with everything, if I had to like dumb it down, it was a 6 easy, 6-pound smallmouth. And I got a good hook set. I'm feeling good. Everything's good, but this fish is pulling drag. It's rolling. I'm freaking out. You can imagine at that age, like, we're playing for 80 grand,
Yeah.
80,000 was first prize. It was a fully loaded 4x4 Chevy truck and a 20-foot Triton with a 225 Merc. Not that I remember, you know what I mean? Not that I remember. So anyways, so, you know, I have them on and we got the net out. Now there's a scrutineer in the boat that can help you net the fish. And the guy was pretty good. So I let him net my fish. So I'm saying, man, just get ready for it. Just put the net in the water and I'll lead him in. And the fish rolled and then took a run and just popped off. And
Oh,
at the time it happened, I thought it broke my line. So I'm reeling and I'm like, oh, my line broke, but it didn't. It just came out. I didn't do anything wrong. There's nothing I could have done to change what happened there. Took me about half an hour to settle down. And I, you know, I kind of went around and I'm like, okay, you still got an hour. Let's make this happen. I pop another 5. So I got 3 5s, a 3 and a dink, or a small fish. Sorry. And whatever, you know, I ran out of time. I needed probably about another 20 minutes and I probably would have got one more big fish. It didn't happen. I ran up the river. I hit like probably, you know, 10 or 12 trees, pitching a jig, just getting maybe a lucky 4-pound largemouth, something. It never happened. I ended up losing that tournament. I came in second and I lost the tournament by 3/4 of a pound with a 13-inch smallmouth in the boat, you know? And I remember like everybody came up to me shaking, hey man, great job. Like that was awesome. And I was literally in tears because I just thought, man, this was like a life-changing experience for me. And it went like nobody remembers second. And that's the only one that remembers second is you. That's it. No one else does. But you know what? It really it was the beginning of my small, because we were all largemouth fishermen growing up. Smallmouth were never a factor in tournaments. So it really did sort of shape the future of how I was learning to fish and what I was learning to do. And everybody was a flipper and jigs and spinner baits and,
yeah.
you know, docks and trees. And then all of a sudden it opened up an entire new world, structure fishing and learning how to find rock when you didn't have side imaging and all that. So it made me a better fisherman. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not happy that I lost that fish. But you know, hey, that's fishing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. It's
Yeah.
everyone's got those memories of the one they lost, and
Oh,
you know, it's all, and everyone's reaction is going to be way different. Mine, 2 years ago, lost like a 4-pound smallie at the
yeah.
boat on Cayuga. It was a tough tournament for everyone, and had you know, I was yelling at my buddy to get the net, and he was reeling in, and I'm like, oh, you're not going fast enough. So I grabbed the net, go to scoop the smallie, grab the treble hook out of his
Oh,
mouth with the net, and yank it off, and he goes, and I just like,
oh yeah.
I just
Yeah.
lost us the tournament. So we go in to weigh in. We had 4 fish. We needed one fish of like at least a pound and a half, and we would have gotten, I think it was first place. And I'm
Wow.
like, and that was a huge lesson. I'm like, don't rush the fish. Just
Yeah.
let it happen. Like I would have rather he had just broken off or
Yeah.
something.
Right.
Because you know,
Of
that's not
course,
my
man.
fault necessarily.
That's right.
Like when I literally right now can see it in slow motion, just dipping the net and pulling the treble hook out of his mouth on accident. And I'm like, oh no.
You know what the sad thing is, and I'm telling you right now, like I can remember what happened to me. We're talking over 20 years ago, like it happened yesterday. You're gonna remember this for the rest of your life. Like
Yeah.
you're gonna be an old guy one day drinking beer on your dock, telling some kid about some story about that fish that you knocked off the net. But that's these memories will always stay with us, good, bad, whatever. They're still great stories. You know what I
And
mean?
they're huge learning experiences.
Yeah, big learning experience. You listen, maybe one day you're going to be in a situation where now you're fishing for 50 grand or 100 grand and you're not going to make that mistake again, right? So
Exactly.
good.
Exactly. So
Awesome, man.
yeah, obviously. So for the listeners who do not know, you are a northerner,
Yep.
across the border to be specific.
Yep.
So where is your favorite place to fish?
Yeah, you know, really all the Great Lakes are awesome. I mean, I if I had to pick one, I would just tell you it's probably the St. Lawrence River.
Okay.
Just that whole area, the lake and the river, just because there's so many opportunities, so many options. You can fish top water, you can fish down in 40 feet, you can fish in 2 feet of water, you can fish reeds, you can fish milfoil, you can fish rock piles. You know, you can fish current, you can fish slack areas. You know, then you got the lake as a whole other ball game. And I honestly believe that there is a record fish swimming in that lake. I mean,
Yeah.
you could say that probably about every Great Lake, but particularly, like it'll be interesting this year with them opening up. So Ontario's always been closed until the third week in June. You are not allowed to fish for bass. No catch and release, nothing.
Yep.
And this year they just opened up Lake Ontario only as a catch and release from January 1st to May 10th. Yeah. So in April, when those fish start coming in shallow to eat, those pre-spawners, I mean, it's going to be, there's going to be some tanks caught. It's no different. I think about the sturgeon bait. You won't go anywhere where you'll see that many fish swimming over 7 pounds in 5 feet of water. And I have to believe that that's going to be very much the same story in Lake Ontario. Every lake's different. We'll see, but there's enough structure shallow that they'll come shallow to eat, no doubt.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then, kind of the second part of that question is, where is your dream place to fish? I personally don't know if you've experienced, gone down south much or whatnot, but.
Yeah. I've gone down to Florida a few times and done some largemouth fishing there, but I think if I had to pick one, maybe like Falcon Lake would be a blast to go and do, or Clear Lake if you're fishing for, with swim baits, just looking for that one, 15-pound plus fish. But it would only be trophy, not numbers. I'm just looking for that biggest fish you can get, So Clear Lake or Falcon would be two good options, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And then once you throw the glide bait in there, big swim bait, then my gosh.
Oh, it'd just be crazy. I couldn't imagine. Because I mean, we live in the mecca of smallmouth. Like, where would you go in the world that has better smallmouth fishing than the Great Lakes area? It's right here. Like this, if you were planning a trip and you were anywhere in the world, you'd be coming here for a trophy smallmouth. So
yeah, there's no doubt about that. I feel so blessed. I'm 10 minutes away from the Niagara River, and then
that's awesome.
30 minutes away from Lake Erie. So it's just blessed. You can't complain. And I'm also grateful that my PB came out of Lake Erie this past year. I caught a 6.6, which I was stoked about.
That's a beauty fish.
Like once I caught it, I was like, this is of a different caliber. Like, just like as soon as I saw it fall into the boat in the net, I'm like, this is unlike anything I've ever seen before. It's just a different caliber of fish.
It's man, when that happens, it's awesome, man. It's so exciting. I still get pumped catching 5-pounder. I've been doing some videos this fall. I had a thing there called Quest for an 8-pound smallmouth, and I got a couple of 7s, but still no 8. But it just
casually says a couple.
Yeah, casually. I know. It was a fun fall.
Yeah, for sure. I learned a lot this fall, especially on Lake Erie, fishing deep with blade baits and whatnot. That was something I had never done before, and it was a huge learning curve for me. And that happened in a tournament, the Douglas Open, Big Money Open, where Andy Full and Destin had 29 pounds.
Yeah.
And me and my buddy Justin are like, we had never caught a fish on the blade bait before. I think I caught one walleye on one before, but we were not prepared for them smallmouth to just shoot straight up into the air every time.
That's crazy.
Like, we're just reeling, and then all of a sudden they're just out of the water and they come unbuttoned, and we're like, well, we were not expecting that. But it's Lake Erie definitely holds giants. So does Ontario, St. Lawrence River. I can't wait to go fish the other Great Lakes someday. That's on my bucket list for sure.
Yeah, you got to do that. That Sturgeon Bay up in Wisconsin is just like an absolute blast. Yeah, insane. Yeah,
for sure. So kind of in the heart of the episode now, and where your expertise comes in, talking about the jerk bait. What is your favorite setup or setups if you have multiple? The rod, reel, line, the lure itself, the hooks you're using, all that good jazz.
Yeah. So I have two. I have a spinning rod setup and a bait casting setup. So my spinning rod, I'll start with that first. Is the Megabass XX Ronin. It's 6'8", I believe, 6'8", 6'11", 6'8". I'm confused. There's so many rods now, but it's the Ronin for sure. Medium action, good light tip, but lots of power down the belly, right? So when you're working that bait, you want some power. If the rod's too soft down that middle end and you're popping that bait, to get it to work, you got to push it too hard, and you're just you'll feel fatigued throughout the day. It's gonna tire you out. You want the rod to do the work, not your arms and your shoulders, So, and then, the other side of it, you don't want to go too stiff, because then that stiffness of the rod, it's going to overwork the bait, You know, back in the days when jerk baits there wasn't a whole lot of technology put in them. You know, to get that bait to move, you really had to pop it hard. So we were using like 6-foot medium heavy, basically like walleye jigging rods. That's what we were using for jerk baits. It's the only way you can get that bait to move. So those big, you know, Smithwick robes, thunder sticks back in the days, you really had to pop them hard. You know, nowadays there are so many companies that make baits that basically kind of you have to do so little to get them to work. So, you know, you just want medium to medium light, depending on the company or the brand, but you want a little power in that belly, but that soft tip. And that soft tip is going to give you two things. It's going to allow the bait to work. You don't want it too stiff where it snaps back and actually ends up pulling the bait back to what you want it to do. You want that bait to run freely. But you know, you want enough down that belly that to get the bait to move. And then when you have to get that fish, you got to get the hooks in on them. That's the one thing about spinning. What I find between spinning and bait casting, you're going to lose more fish with spinning than you will with a bait caster, but you're going to get better action and longer casts on a spinning rod than you will. So that's my setup. It's a 2500 Tatula, a Daiwa Tatula that I use, LT. And I put that on either 10 or 12 braid, and then I go to a fluorocarbon leader. Sometimes I'll go to a mono leader. We'll touch on that in a bit, but I want braid because braid is thinner. I can cast it further. If you went straight fluorocarbon, you're just not going to be able to cast it as far. You're going to have more issues with fluorocarbon, you know, with it tangling and stuff like that. And the other thing that's going to happen is, you know, on a long cast with straight fluorocarbon, you're just not going to have the stiffness in the line to get that bait to move, right? I kind of had this in my teachings. I've come up with this graph in my head that I show people, and I call it the 3 rings. So you picture this is your boat, and then you got 1 ring, 2 rings, and 3 rings. The 3rd ring is the furthest you can cast, right? So there's a ring there, and then there's the middle ring and the ring closest to the boat. The best chance that you have for that fish to eat your bait is at that first ring furthest away, because it's far away. We're generally fishing clear water here. The fish can hear and see a lot. So that initial part of the cast, to me, it's ultra important to get that bait to dance. So picture if you had all this fluorocarbon line or mono line or whatever, you got it way out there, and now you're trying to work that bait. I don't know if you've ever tried this, but we do what we call it the parking lot test. Okay. So you take a bait and figure out how far you can make a cast. So take that line, get your buddy to run that line way out there and hold the line. And now start working the bait with your rod. You'll see how little resistance is going to be on your buddy's hand. He's barely going to feel you moving that bait. So now picture that bait in the water. It's not really working at that point. It's almost like you're almost kind of dragging it a bit. Yeah. But to me, that initial working that bait, so the braid gets rid of that because there's no stretch in braid whatsoever. The fluorocarbon leader, there's a little stretch, but you're not going to feel it. It's going to be mostly that braid that's working that bait. Yeah. As you get it close to the boat, what that does is if you're fighting a fish and it's a big fish and it comes to the boat and starts thrashing, that fluorocarbon leader gives you that little bit of stretch that you want, plus the fact that they're not going to be able to see it as well as they would braid. So if you tied direct braid, maybe a big fish in clear water on a sunny day would probably spot that that braid and maybe shy away. It doesn't mean they're going to. I've had guys, we've done the test where we have a guy throwing straight braid and the guy throwing fluorocarbon. 9 out of 10 times the fluorocarbon will outproduce the braid. And I just think that not seeing it. Now, if you change the conditions and it's windy and cloudy and, there's a lot of wave action, maybe the braid, they don't spot it as easy, right? But, then you have straight braid, no stretch whatsoever. You're going to lose more fish. You're going to pull more hooks. Fluorocarbon is important. Once in a while, I'll go to mono, which a lot of guys have kind of shied away from mono. But mono is a great addition rather than fluorocarbon because fluorocarbon sinks, mono floats. Mm-hmm. So if I'm throwing a bait across a real shallow flat that's got a lot of boulders, I like going to a mono leader rather than the fluorocarbon. It'll keep that bait up a bit, right? Mm-hmm. And then it gives you more stretch as well. So say, for example, if I'm fishing cold conditions, early in the spring, water temps are cold, I'll almost always go to mono. That extra stretch doesn't allow me to overwork the bait as much. And a lot of times those subtle movements of the bait will get you more bites. if I'm trying to get the bait to go down, so we're fishing off a ledge or something,
Mhm.
yes, then I'll go to fluorocarbon, because that mono that floating line will
Yeah.
keep the bait from achieving maximum depths. And you know the way it is when the water's cold, even a foot or half a foot difference can make a difference from catching fish or
Yeah.
just fish saying, I don't want to go up and
Yeah.
get it, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, so that's my spinning outfit. Now, when it comes to the hooks, I mean, we talk about this. I'm a Megabass guy for a long time, really, since I can get them in Japan. I've been using Megabass, and my opinion, truly, they are the best jerk baits out there. It's an effortless way to work a bait, and they come in so many different selections. This one's the junior here, but they talk about, a lot of guys talk about changing hooks on the jerk baits, on the 110, the plus ones. I don't change hooks on them at all. I always use the Megabass. I've played around with the Aaron Martins and a bunch of other brands. I don't feel like I'm catching more with one than other. To me, it's all about the setup, right? I think a lot of guys, they'll use stiffer rods, because I've had customers come in my boat to learn how to use a jerkbait. And I'm telling you, 19 out of 20, their setup is too stiff. Their rods are too stiff. So now you got the stiff rod. They're trying to fight it too aggressively. And yeah, if that fish is pulling, the way it is when you got a 4 or 5 pound smallmouth on, he wants to go one way and you don't let him. Yeah, you're going to straighten out the hooks. But the reality is these baits are tuned to perfection. If guys ask me, look, man, I just want to, I just feel like the Aaron Martins are better. The Aaron Martins are one of the only hooks that are actually tuned for a 110. When Aaron Martin was with Megabass, he had those hooks tuned. So yeah, if you feel more comfortable with the Aaron Martins, you can, but it's a lot of extra money to spend.
Yeah.
I just feel these are good. The thing is, I always carry spares. Once these hooks get compromised and they bend out or whatever, I'll bend it back. If I catch another fish on that hook, I just change it. I don't play around with it. So I always keep a bunch of spares in my in my tackle box, and I change them as needed.
Yeah.
Split rings, you can change them real fast now. It takes nothing. Even an old guy with me with bad eyes, I could still change them easily. So yeah, don't change the hooks on these baits. If you are, only use the Aaron Martins. But man, these hooks will catch them. I've caught so many fish over 5 pounds on this hook. I haven't had it. Yeah, you're gonna listen. Jerk bait fishing. The thing about it, no matter what you do, you are gonna lose fish. I'm telling you, and I'll say it again. You will lose fish. It's part of the game of jerk bait fishing. But keep some extra hooks in. Don't keep bending that hook back. The other thing is, when you get that fish in the net, it's almost always the net that messes up the hooks. You got a big fish in there and you get him in net, the hooks get caught in it and it starts going side. Yeah, it's going to start opening up hooks. Carry extras, change them up. You'll be good. On the bait casting side, yeah, I got a couple, but my favorite is definitely the jerk bait special or the 110 special in a Megabass Double X or the Destroyer. I prefer the Destroyer. It's a little bit lighter in my hands. I'm a smaller guy. I like it. The other one that's come out right now, man, it is unbelievable, is the new Destroyer P5, either in the Cyclone or the 110 stick. So they're a little bit shorter. They're 6'6", 6'5".
Okay.
But I'll tell you this, the reason we went to longer rods was because you're going to get longer casts and a little bit of leverage. But what I found was now with these new reels, like I always bring them with the Tatula Elite or the SVTW. Those two reels cast so far. I'll put it up against some spinning, like a spinning setup. You can almost cast as far, so you're not losing distance now.
Mm-hmm.
But what I find, what I mentioned earlier, I just feel the way the rod bends or whatever it is, I just feel like I get more fish to the boat with a bait caster. So more so in the spring, I'll almost exclusively use a bait caster, and I'll go to either straight mono or straight fluoro. If again, I'm fishing shallow water, I'll go to straight mono. If I need to get that bait deeper, I'm throwing a 110+1 and I'm trying to achieve maximum depth, then I'll go to fluorocarbon. But I rarely use braid and I rarely use spinning gear. Remember, in the spring when the water's cold, you don't have to work that bait extra hard.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's more pausing and just being very natural with the bait. And, this is, I'll give you one tip that I find has helped me in almost any bait I'm throwing. when that bait's in the water, I'm trying to imagine everything that bait's doing with the action of my rod tip. So every time I get a bait in the water, I'll make a 10-foot cast, I'll pop the rod and just get an idea of what that bait's doing and what you have to do to make it do a certain thing. And now when I'm making a cast out there and I get that bait down, I'm picturing it like verbatim, everything that it's doing, everything I'm doing with my rod. And I just feel that when I'm in tune with what I feel that bait's doing, I get bit more. I catch more fish.
Okay.
Definitely in the spring, you want more pauses and longer pauses. You're going to get bit. The guy that's overworking that bait in cold water, I would say like that cusp is kind of like 52 to 55. Anything colder than that, way more pauses. Sometimes 10, 15 seconds in between, you're going to get way more bites. And then as that water starts to warm up, I'll tend to, less pauses or much shorter pauses and more action. And then once we start getting into the 60, 65 range, then, you can work that bait a lot faster. You're going to get more bites.
Gotcha.
So those are my two setups. And again, I'm a shorter guy. Maybe a taller guy might go to a 7-foot rod, and because that 7-foot rod to a guy that's like 6'2" or 6'3" might work very similarly to the rod that I use. That's maybe a 6'5" to 6'8". Yeah. But the key that never changes. Listen, Megabass makes the jerk baits. It makes the rods that match it. They tune them. They go to the pros. They spend a lot of time trying to figure out where the bend needs to be, where the tip needs to be. And I just find when I play around with lots of different rods, those are my go-to rods. They're the best. But a guy, that may be a Syncro guy or whatever, find that rod that's got good belly action, a good light tip, long cast, be able to work the bait well. You don't want to overwork it. If you're getting your line cut up in your hooks, that just means you're overworking the bait too much. You should never do that.
Gotcha. Wow. Thank you for breaking that down. You did a great job there.
Yeah, no problem.
So then kind of the second part to that question is, where do you fish this presentation?
Yeah. So, the thing about jerk baits is I kind of fish it everywhere, right? Unless I'm deeper than say 20 feet. And there's some guys that'll stroll jerk baits in 40 feet of water. It's not my deal. I don't like doing it, but you can do it with, just like you're dragging a tube in the back of a boat or whatever, you can stroll for those suspended fish. But, jerk bait fishing, casting and retrieving, I kind of max out at about 20 to 25 feet. Sometimes you'll see like, I'll be fishing around and I'll notice a couple of suspended fish that might be 5 to 10 feet off the bottom. And I'm starting to see a little pattern going on. I'll take a +1. Honestly, the +1 is my favorite jerk bait for what we do up here. We're up north. We fish a lot of these cold, deep water lakes. And, I just think that this +1 is the deal. It's got the longer lip. It gets down. You can get this bait down easily 8, 9 feet, gets down to that. So you can fish it no problem in 15 to 17 feet of water. You picture this bait getting down 8, 9 feet, and that fish might be suspended 1 or 2 feet. Mm-hmm. When they're active, they have no problem coming up 5 feet to eat this bait. So I get a lot of fish on this bait. Now, the action of it and the way I retrieve this bait is a lot different than the ONETEN. And this is another tip that I'll give out that is really crucial. And I get way more bites with it. I fish this bait the same way you would fish like a Diamante Dog X or any kind of cigar topwater bait, that walk the dog style, where you're just popping your rod tip to get it to go to the left, to the right, to the left, to the right. This bait has almost the identical action. So if you were to run it down, so you make a long cast, give it like 4 or 5 cranks, get it down, and then all I do is pop the rod, pick up slack, pop the rod, pick up slack. And this bait is just swimming, like this in the water. And I don't know what it is, man, but smallmouth, they can't stand it. And they chew it up. The only time I ever change it is if I get a follow-up to the boat, I'll stop it and then just give it like one quick pop with that rod. The key to the follow-up fish that a lot of guys, they'll keep working the bait back to the boat. But remember, I kind of got off the 3 ring, but as you start getting to the last ring where you would see a fish maybe follow your bait, now, whether you know it or not, that fish knows that boat is there. It's already heard you. It knows, but it's looking at this bait. It's like, man, I think I could still eat this before it gets to whatever that thing is. So if you keep working that bait, you see the fish, but you keep working it towards the boat, you're getting closer and closer. The closer you get the boat to the bait to the boat, the less chance you have. The key is to stop it and make it work without actually bringing it to the boat. So giving it just a quick pop that might get it to spin around, but keeping it in that strike zone without necessarily getting it too close to the boat. And a lot of times I can get fish to bite even in super calm conditions just by doing that. So remember, you just want it to flitter or flicker, but not moving it closer to the boat. You'll get some more bites. But yeah, the +1 is definitely my go-to bait when I start getting, deeper than 8 to 10 feet. I'm going to throw this mainly. Now, it doesn't mean it's the only bait I'm going to throw. I'll still throw a 110 if I feel they're suspending higher in the water column. This bait gets down too deep, they're not going to go down for it. So getting that bait in that strike zone or the area that the fish are in. So I'll throw a 110. I've caught fish in it with a 110. It may only go down 5 feet, but I've thrown it in 15 feet and whacked them. So understanding where they are, and the fish will give you little cues as to what they are. So for example, if I'm throwing a 110 and I'm getting fish falling to the boat, but they're coming up on it like that, then I know they're down, and then I'll automatically switch to a +1. Virtually, if I'm throwing a +1 and I'm getting a lot of fish coming at it this way, I may take 2 or 3 casts with a 110 thinking, hey, maybe that fish was higher and kind of came down to the bait. And then he sees the boat and takes off. So that 110 being right in their strike zone, further away from the boat, will get you more bites. So I hope I answered your question, but definitely inside of 25 feet, you can catch fish on a jerkbait, no problem, in our clear water.
All right. Yeah, that you really just opened up my eyes a little bit too to that. Like I don't really ever think about, like, you got to pay attention to the little things, like you said, with the fish coming straight up on it. Then you got to cue that means that the fish is going to be deeper, and you got to try something a little deeper.
Yeah, when I got hooked up with Megabass, Aaron Martin was still there, and he's one of those guys. He's pretty awesome, like really amazing angler. But he uses nature to give him tips. So whether it's the fish or what the bait is doing or what birds are doing or what the bugs are doing, he looks at it as like this whole ecosystem. And he always would say that the ecosystem would give you tips as to what's going on. Not so much that, but that same concept of just understanding what's around you. It's like somebody says, oh, you see those birds diving in the water.
Yeah.
There's bait fish there. There might be a school of bass around there. But there are so many other cues and clues that can tip you off to what they're doing. I'm always looking at how the fish are chasing the bait. If I have one hooked, how they're hooked. And this is a common thing that a lot of guys talk about, but not a lot of anglers really pay close attention to. How did that fish eat the bait? Is the back hook in him, or did he eat it sideways? That gives you a cue. I might even catch a fish on this color, but I'm getting fish on that back hook. Man, when you get too many bites on that back hook, you're going to lose way more fish. I want them to eat it. So I'm either doing something wrong with my cadence, or I'm going to do a color switch. And chances are right off the bat, I'll switch a color to see if that makes a difference. If I'm not getting bit, I'll go back to that color and maybe change up the cadence.
Gotcha. All right. And then speaking of colors, if, for someone who's just getting into this and they want to buy a few different colored jerk baits, what colors would you recommend? Because obviously all of us kind of get drowned out sometimes when we're in the tackle store looking at everything. So if you had to boil it down to a few colors for the beginners, or even anyone to use, what would they be?
Yeah. So, yeah, you walk into a tackle store, the store beside me at Pro J's here in Toronto, they're a big Megabass dealer. You walk into the store, they have 100 colors.
Yeah.
So imagine a guy that's just getting into it and he walks in and he's like, man, I don't know what to do here. Yeah. So, I kind of break down colors into 3 categories. You have a translucent color, which are going to be different patterns, but light will shine directly through it. It's almost like a ghost pattern. Then you have something opaque like this where light penetrates it, but it'll show up on dark days as well as cloud. Light gets through it, but not quite. So it won't be a silhouette. It's still a solid color. And then, then you have your flash color like this, your shads, your minnows, something that real flashes. So I say to everybody, man, you want to get into jerk baits, you got to put the money in to make sure you don't need 100 colors. Yeah. But you need a few colors. So I'll get 1 or 2 colors in the opaque style like this. I'll get a couple of colors flashy. Maybe I'm going to go with something that's silver. And then my second color might have maybe a little bit of orange on the belly, something different, or more gold. Gold can be very good too. And then, the last one would be, something like this. This is a little bit brighter, but you could see very see-through. This is a GP Pro Blue in the FX 110, but light penetrates it. So you can imagine on a really clear day, the sun shining and the water's flat, this is going to give it a very ghost-like hue. They see it, but light really shoots through it, and you're not really getting all the edges to it. They know something's there, but not quite sure. And then you can, I get a couple of hues. This one's got a very goldy hue. I might get one that's even more see-through, something that's very, very muted out, on those calm days. That's a better choice. Now, again, so if you were to ask me, Nick, when do you throw what? Super calm days, I'm going to go with translucent colors. Those sunny, cloudy days, or maybe you get a little bit of chop. I like these, opaque style, and then dark days, I'm either going to go opaque or flash, something that's solid where light doesn't penetrate. They're going to see it better. But if that doesn't work, then you go back to the drawing board. Believe me, I've had days where, you should not catch one on a translucent. It's dark, it's cloudy, it's ugly, it's raining, but for whatever reason, maybe they don't spot it as well and they're spooked, and maybe just something like that they don't see as well. They want to attack more, and I mean, that could change hour to hour, day to day. A lot of guys get caught on confidence, and believe me, it's important. But if you get more confidence in more colors, you'll be a better rounded angler when you're doing this, and you won't be stuck on that one color. And then when you don't catch fish on that, you'll be like, oh man, I got to switch. You know what I mean? So, and obviously there's those days they just don't want to chase a jerkbait. So I grew up fishing jerkbaits. I mean, it was an obsession of mine. So there were, and I don't mean like a year, I mean like 15 years. And it's all I threw. My deck of my boat in a tournament would have like 4 or 5 jerkbait rods, and then I would have a drop shot or maybe a small tube for a follow-up fish, and that's the only thing. But I wouldn't make a cast on that thing. It would be jerkbait. It'd be, I'm going to win this tournament on a jerkbait, or I'm going to bust. But either way, I'm throwing a jerkbait.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Yeah, jerkbait is definitely something I want to gain some confidence in this year. Like, I've caught fish on it before, but nowhere near like being able to pattern them with it, or get them dialed in.
Yeah, listen, it takes time, and I mean, those years that I spent fishing a jerkbait and going crazy on it's all I threw. What it taught me was that imagine a guy that I've done all this, so I had everything tuned. I had colors. I would say, okay, conditions are this today. These are my top 5 colors. And then I'd work my way back, change hooks, do this, do that. And then, you pick up a spinner bait, you pull it out of your box, you tie it up and throw it out, but you never make a change on it. And what I started to realize is all the tweaking I did with jerk baits made me better at everything. Cause now I question, okay, this spinner bait, maybe if I had a silver blade with this color rather than the gold blade, or I had a painted white blade, or, this swim bait. Yeah. I'm catching fish on this color, or this head, but maybe if I had this head, you know what I mean? So it constantly keeps that train in motion in your brain. You're always thinking, man, you become a better angler, you make better decisions. And that's what it's all about. This is not like, I can tell you what works for me, and all it is a theory. It's not one, it's never 1 + 1 is 2. That's fishing is not like that. So, it's always good to change things and try different things, and you'll come up with your own experiences and your own ideas, and you'll be a better fisherman.
Wow. Thank you. You did a great job with that segment. You really broke that
thanks.
down and gave us the goods on that.
I'm passionate, man. Listen, I love jerk baits, and I don't mind that, I have a lot of guys here that, ask me questions about jerk baits, and, hey, I love it, man. I'm passionate about it. And I want them to go and get like a 6-7 pounder on a jerk bait. Trust me, it's, you better have a good heart for it, but it's the best experience.
For sure. And hopefully this year I can make that happen. And I'll definitely let you know when that happens.
But I hope you do. Yeah.
Thank you. So let's go with a few last questions to kind of wrap up the show as we're nearing the end here. I have 3 questions now because I'm introducing a listener question segment. But the first question is, what is your favorite snack on the water?
So we, I'm of European descent. So our snacks are like big paninis, mortadella, salami, cheese. We always make jokes. We meet up with some guys on the water while we're pre-fishing and they're, like, oh, we're struggling. I'm like, yeah, man, we're crushing it today. We had some panini. We got so much energy. We're killing it. So it's the panini for sure.
That's awesome. That's awesome for sure. Next one is, do you have any tips for staying positive on the water?
Yeah, you know what? So tips, I mean, being positive really comes from experience. And it is so, believe me, there's not, I mean, the top guy, Kevin Van Dam, has days where he's like, man, I don't even know what I'm doing anymore. I feel like I've lost it, right? There's no question about it. But the better anglers, more and more, they never let anything get it down. This is the way I like to look at it, whether you're fishing a tournament or going out for fun. You never know when you're going to catch them. You're out for X amount of hours. It might all happen in how many days have you gone out and had a really solid morning and then your afternoon just sucked?
Yep.
And you go to water and you're like, man, it was so long since we had like a good bite in the day. Like it almost feels like your day was horrible, even though you crushed them in the morning. You rather almost get them in the afternoon, right? At the end of the day, you come off all positive. So the way I look at it is like, look, every cast, every spot, everything you do is a new day, a new time. And I never, what didn't happen in your last cast doesn't mean it isn't going to happen in your next cast. So I constantly remind myself, and believe me, I'm not saying it's perfect, but over time, my success has gotten better because I stay confident throughout the day. And if you lose confidence, honestly, you might as well just pack it up and go home. It isn't going to change.
Yeah.
Because confidence is 50% of it, man. In some cases, it might even be more.
Wow.
There's so many of us now with the information out on the internet and the way you can watch 100 videos a night until you die. There's no secrets anymore. You know what I mean? You still have to take that and apply it to the water, but you need confidence is everything. You work that bait more. You're more conscious of everything that's going on. You're paying attention to the little things. When your confidence is shot, it's like, man, you're looking out there, you're checking your watch, you're, scratching your butt. Like it's not good. Yeah. So yeah, just always remember, man, it could happen at any time. I'll tell you a quick story. When I was out in another classic 3 years after the one I lost that big fish on, I finished second on Lake Simcoe, which is a famed smallmouth body of water here. And the first day I had a game plan. I thought it was solid, but the wind had been blowing from a certain direction. And I knew the area that I was going to fish was pretty muddy. And on that lake, that clear water, when the water gets dirty, the fish is shut off. So I had to kind of go on a limb and just fish a bunch of different stuff. And, it wasn't happening. 11 o'clock, I had not seen a fish, nothing. But I kept going, next spot. It's 1 o'clock. I have to be back at 2:30. It's 1 o'clock. I pull up to the spot. The first fish I see follows my bait up. I'm like, I got this. It's over. I weighed over 21 pounds in 20 minutes, got back with like minutes to spare. And that kept me in the game. And I ended up finishing second in that tournament. Wow. Had I given up on that day, I might as well have just picked up my truck and driven home, because whatever happened in the second and third day wouldn't have mattered. So confidence is everything. Keep going, change stuff if it's not working. Don't get stuck on one bait and you'll be a better angler.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you for that tip. That was definitely a good one right there.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Then as for the listener question, let me pull up the picture first so we know which one I'm talking about.
Yeah.
They asked, how big was this smallmouth in the one that you sent me?
Oh, that one was my 7.21.
7.21. All right. Well, there you go. You got your question answered there with a ginormous smallmouth bass, nonetheless. How did you catch that one?
That one was caught on a swim bait.
Nice.
A secret swim bait.
All right. All right.
For another day.
You're allowed to have secrets. That's fine.
Yeah, it's all right.
All right. Well, Nick, yet again, I'd like to say thank you for being on the show. I definitely learned a lot. I hope the listeners did as well. And is there anyone that you'd like to shout out?
Yeah, you know what? First of all, I want to thank you for having me on the show. It's awesome. Anytime I can talk fishing is great. I want to thank Megabass, Smith Optics, Pro J's out here, Daiwa. They have been true to me for a long time and really appreciate all the support they give me. And thanks to all the guys in Instagram that if you see me on Instagram, you have any questions, shoot them down to me. I answer everything. And if I don't, you can message me back and give me crap that I didn't get back to you about that question. I'll be happy to answer them.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. And then as for everyone, thank you for listening and tune in for episode number 22 of the JD Outdoors podcast, brought to you by Woo Tungsten, Tacticalories, X Zone Lures, and JD Outdoors Lure Co. Thanks, guys.